Sirs, welcome to this 1-hour refresher training course on the CII National Award for Food Safety, the Assessors Training. Besides providing you with the glimpses of the award, the program objectives would be to update you on the revisions in criteria, pre-site visit must-dos, focus on assessing the enablers and the link results for writing the feedback report remarks. Also, the importance of what we communicate in the opening and the closing meeting. Site visit days, 3 to 4 working days this time. Opportunities for independent consultants, and we will also provide you in the appendix the roles of senior assessors, applicants, conduct, disclaimer, confidentiality, oath, appeal, and others. So as far as the glimpses of the award is concerned, I first want to thank all of you for the tremendous efforts and the contribution that you made last year. For all of you who had an opportunity to assess. The award has been very well appreciated, and it has been growing in leaps and bounds. Till last year, the number of applicants, the percentage growth has been more than 8-folds since 2010. That was its inception year, and the number of assessors has grown by more than 7-folds in 2014. By this year, that is as of today, the number of assessors have grown even further, and today each of you are one of the 249 food professionals who are qualified CII assessors for the CII National Award for Food Safety. The award is evaluated by the entire spectrum of the stakeholders of food. That is, it starts with you who are the technical food professionals of the industry. It is then followed by the calibration process, once again by a calibrator from the industry. The Food Safety Awards Committee and the jury represents the rest of the stakeholders. As you can see here, last year's jury was Mr. Ravi Mathur, the chairman of the jury and the chairman of the CII Expert Group on Food Safety and Quality, CEO of GS1, Dr. Uttam Kumar Chatterjee, the CEO of TPM Solutions, Professor Ram Rajashekharan, Director CFTRI, and Ms. Harita Vashireddy, the Managing Director of the reputed Vimta Laboratories. The top 36 food safety recognition winners of 2014 have been listed here, and since last year, the publicity and the wide visibility that we have been able to give to the recognition winners has really improved. You see here we have the clipping of the advertorial, the Contributory Business Standard advertorial that was published on December 5th, 2014. All editions, the all colored editions of the Business Standard. We had the Zee Business Award ceremony coverage. It was a half an hour coverage of the event, a post-event coverage, of course, and it was shown twice. We have the award story publication, which most of you would have received a copy of it by now, and I will also show you the clippings in my next slide. There were articles in a CII communique. We have the press release as well, and then there was the Gala Awards night and other press clippings. We are soon coming up with a directory of the recognition winners. This is how the award story of 2014 looked like. It's only a few pages that we have, we have shown as excerpts out here. The logos of the recognition winners have been presented, and for all those who have won the awards, their photographs of receiving the felicitation was also published in the award story. I'm sure all of you would have had a look at it prior to this. Now we come to the new criteria and revisions of 2015. This year, we have added, besides the street food, hotels, restaurants, catering, wholesale warehousing, transportation, manufacturing, primary production. These were there last year, that is criteria 1 to 5. This year, we have added manufacturing of pesticides, cleaning and sanitation, as well as for food packaging material. And the criteria number is 6 and 6A. It is applicable to the micro, small and medium, large, and the rising star. The criteria, the award assessment criteria table has been modified accordingly to include the last line. Everything else is the same. The last row is covering the food chain input providers, that is the cleaning, sanitation, etc., which is up to pest control, it is criteria 6. Whereas for food packaging manufacturer, we have had to modify criteria 6 further to include the packaging material ISO 22002-4 in the award model. The broad model remains the same with the social, statutory, and the regulatory compliance, the product-specific GMP, PRP, HACCP, food safety management, as well as the change management initiatives. Criteria 1 was amended last year, that is in 2014, and it remains unchanged this year as well. The total is 1,000 marks, just like before. This is meant for the street food. There has been a change in criteria 2. The score distribution has been amended with inputs from the jury as well as the assessor, some of the senior assessors and the assessors. There were quite a few rounds of discussion, and now the prerequisite program, the highest possible score, has increased from 300 to 350. In the process, there has been a slight tweaking of the scores, of the subsection scores from 1 to 16 of the prerequisite programs. If you look at the prerequisite programs, once again, a lot of priority has been given, starting from, subsection number 4 to number 14, as well as also on training. Sector-specific GMP remains the same. The score is still 150. Change management initiatives is still 150. Again, in criteria 2, the change has been in the food safety management system structure. Earlier it was 200, now it is 175. HACCP was 200, now it is 175. So this has been the overall score distribution change in criteria 2. A very similar change has been made in criteria 3 as well. Broadly, PRP has been increased to 350. So now if you see, PRP and sector-specific GMP adds up to 500. Whereas the HACCP and the food safety management system structure is 350. So this is the basic changes are the same in criteria 2 and 3. The marks distribution for criteria number 4 remains unchanged. This is applicable, this was introduced last year, applicable to warehousing, transportation. All the sub-criteria also, that is the subsections, sections B2, B3, they are all unchanged. For criteria 5, which is for primary production, it is unchanged since last year. It was a new introduction last year. Now we come to criteria 6, which is the criteria meant for pesticide, basically inputs to the food sector. So pesticide manufacturer, the cleaning and sanitation, the cleaning and sanitizing agents also. So this would be mostly it is very similar to the criteria 3, but the changes have been only made in the individual weightages. Another point to note here is that the marks distribution in criteria 6, similar to manufacturing criteria 3, is similar to the old manufacturing 3. We have not changed it. We would like to have a look at the modifications or review this particular model after doing one round of assessment this year. So this is what we are calling criteria 6. For the packaging, we are calling it criteria 6A. And as I mentioned, for packaging, there is a specific prerequisite program, ISO 20002-4, which has been included in the prerequisites of this particular criteria, and hence we have created the differentiation in the name of the criteria by calling it 6A. This year, there has also been a slight change in the maturity bands. We start from the no evidence or anecdotal, which is between 0 to 20, which we are calling it anecdotal. Last year it was 0 to 10. The implication is that for a 20 score, there is some level of awareness on the food safety practices among the employees in the unit. However, the practice is not so good. I mean, it is more on an anecdotal stage. So yes, the score can be up to 20. We must remember that we don't score any organization or any sections 0 or 100. There is an evidence of basic level of implementation and covers some relevant areas. This is the second last point. The basic has been, now 25 to 45. Earlier, the basic was less. The band was less. The competitive band is 50 to 70. Again, this is a slight change. And the advanced is 75 to 85. And the world class remains the same. Section C, sector-specific good manufacturing practices. The wordings, the articulation has changed to sector-specific GMP based on relevant codes of practice and best practices. Assess sector-specific requirements and best practices for the following as is applicable. Technology, equipment, methods, material of construction related to the points below. Please ensure that this is not an overlap with the prerequisite programs. Now, to note down a few pre-site visit must-dos. One is, of course, ensure that you are assessing against the correct criteria, because there are so many new introductions in the criteria. While we do some verifications, at the CII's end when receiving the applications, but as soon as the assessor team receives the application, each of you are requested to cross-verify and ensure that their scope and the criteria are correct. Reconfirm the number of product lines. Reconfirm the scope. Utilize the process flow chart to prepare for the sector-specific GMP and the HACCP plan. Many a time we find that the unit is supposed to send the process flow chart as well as the organization chart with the application document, but sometimes they forget to do so. So the assessor team needs to verify this and point that out to the senior assessor so that the senior assessor can get in touch with the applicant company to ensure that the process flowchart reaches them well in advance of the site visit, because that is the only way to prepare for the sector-specific GMP. we are all, we all face this dilemma of not really, being prepared with the best-in-class practices of a sector related to a particular sector. However, we try to have one domain expert in the team, and also a lot of homework needs to be done from our end. Basically, each of us are food professionals, and with some homework, we should be somewhat, ready to assess sector-specific GMP. Okay, request for the unit's organization chart. This is required for actually planning out your site visit interviews. Now, this year, we are making it mandatory that all site visits the actual site visit must be 3 days. That is, +1 should be for the travel in and +1 for travel out. But 3 clear days, at least 12 hours a day is required, to make that report. If there is an assessor dropout, we will allocate 3 assessors, for each assessment. If there is a last-minute dropout and CII is not able to provide one additional assessor, in that case, the assessment days must be increased to 1 more day. So it is basically 4 days for 2 assessors. Please remember that if you have 3 assessors and 3 days, you get 9 man days. Whereas 2 assessors, 4 days, you get 8 man days. Well, somehow you will have to manage, with that. Maybe the departing time could be a little delayed on the 5th day. Allocate 1 day, that is minimum 12 hours for the consensus meeting, scoring, and the executive summary. Request the company to make a presentation covering the data and information on the strengths. You see, it is good to use this presentation, along with the video and any photographs of their best practices with the jury if shortlisted. So the senior assessor should speak about this to the company from beforehand so that they make a presentation. However, this is not mandatory. Senior assessor is the one-point contact with the applicant company. The senior assessor discusses with team members and applicant company to arrive at the suitable set of dates for the site visit. Please try completing by mid-August. It is not good to have this, extend beyond August. And if you keep it to mid-August, in case of emergencies, you can push it to the last week of August. That way, we don't exceed the time limit. It's very important for us to follow that discipline. Prepare a tentative plan of the on-site assessments. I think this is something which we regularly do. Requesting for guides is also a regular feature. Familiarize yourself with the assessment format before reaching the site. It has to be compatible with your operating system. Each of you will have to carry a laptop, so the senior assessor must ensure there will be many new assessors in your team also, because we are keeping on having, inducting new assessors into the team through the training process. So please remind them that everybody has to carry a laptop, reference standards, guidelines, especially the sector-specific GMP. These would enable you to provide value-adding feedback in the report. Now, it is also important for you as a senior assessor to communicate to the company that this is what, should be part of the presentation. This is a change, the red ones, the red lines are the ones that we have incorporated this time to make this particular slide was always there, but we have modified this slide. So a quick appreciation of the products and processes. Please request them to present some key result trends, targets and comparisons with their comparison with the best in class. That is what we mean here. The company's comparison with the best in class on the subsections wherever possible. Good practices in the unit, their key technologies, process and improvements over the last 3 years, participation percentage of the employees in the change management initiatives, the key improvements on the change management initiatives also, challenges and future plans. This must also, include photographs and pictures to the extent possible. Okay, so this year, um, based on the feedback that we have been getting from our calibrators, our jury members, we are focusing this year's refresher training on how to make the report value adding, helping the process of evaluation and ensuring a fair decision by the jury. Please remember that for each of you, the output, the desired output from this assessment is the quality report. So this year we are going to be a little more objective about what we are looking for in the reports. The key words this year are the enablers. We have been speaking about it, but we'll provide some more elaboration on it. The enablers, the linked results, and the recording of the findings. So the key elements of the assessment and the reporting. The first point is, please capture and record examples. See, examples is the key word out here. Examples of what? Examples of the approaches, examples on the level of deployment in the relevant areas, examples of improvements, and result trends. Result trends will only show whether they are improving or they are going down. And if so, if they are going down, what is the justification for it? The trends, the result trends should be presented against targets and benchmarks. Now, your interview questions have to be related to these aspects. The finding, the remarks that you write should be addressing these points. You need not necessarily record procedure numbers or record numbers in the feedback report. It is not important. The jury doesn't even want to listen, which record and procedure number has that. You don't have to write it. Rather, your qualifying and descriptive results, remarks and results on the food safety, comparisons with best in class, helps the jury understand the level of maturity better. And here when I say it helps the jury, please remember before the jury there are the calibrators. So the calibrator also has to, the poor calibrator also has to understand why that score was given, why it is excellent, why should it go up and get shortlisted. So you would be doing justice by actually respecting this third point that I've mentioned here, your qualifying descriptive remarks and results. Another thing is that we are reporting in the award is based on a reporting from the third party perspective for the next phases of evaluation. The question of the company coming and making a presentation never arises. Let us look at this particular finding. Supposing the on the left hand side we have the guidelines written. So there are two guidelines that the assessor has to prove. What are these? Are the site boundaries clearly identified and free of vegetation, standing water and parkings. So there is a small column which says yes, no, partly. Now you must put in this yes, no, partly, you must insert that comment, and that itself tells you the compliance level of this point. But the yes, no, partly only tells you the compliance level. It does not tell you about the maturity. Let us see how you really, articulate the maturity part of it. On the right-hand side, you need not just answer that question. See, you have to write a qualifying statement on it. Let us see what this particular team had written. There was a boundary wall with security postings at 3 points. With appropriate paving, sloping, and clean drainage systems, standing water around the main factory is prevented effectively. However, there were signs of algal growth in a few external walls, although these did not impact food safety of processed and packaged products directly. The parking of two-wheelers and visitors' car are in the designated areas. Then there is another question, is access to the site controlled? So the answer is yes. So on the access control, they have said that access control at all 3 entries are strictly monitored by manual security checks. Gate pass and color-coded badges are given at the time of entry to vendors, contractual workers, and visitors. For potential intruders, there is an alarm system installed on the boundary walls. In 2030, 2 such attempts of intrusion were prevented through the CCTV coverage. Now, if you really analyze this, you will find there is an aspect of approach being, described here. So the approach was, paving, sloping, clean drainage system, manual security posting, CCTV coverage, alarm system on the boundary wall. So this was the approach part of it. Deployment was at all 3 entry points. So deployment has also been, mentioned here. Deployment means where all, it has been implemented. So the deployment is all 3 entry points. Also, to who all? Vendors, contractual workers, visitors. So this particular line on access control at 3 entry points, then the vendors, contractual workers, and visitors being covered by color coded is a remark on the deployment. Now, a little bit of the result has also been mentioned here. In 2013, 2 such attempts of intrusion were prevented through the CCTV coverage. So now, some point of a result. I mean, even in a guideline like this, in an aspect of site boundaries, access control, some level of result also has been covered. I think this is the way, our thinking should be when we write the remarks column. We don't have to give them solutions. But if we see the word manual was enough, for us to know that it cannot get a world-class score here. It is absolutely fine. Even 85 would have been fine. 80 to 85 would have been fine. So, we have to say, if we are not giving them world-class scores, what exactly was the point, for which they got 80 or 85? Please think about it this way, when you are doing the consensus meeting, help your, co-assessors to write their allocated remarks column this way. Okay, so based on that example, now let me summarize what I had just mentioned. What to record on findings on the subsections. Tick the yes, no, not applicable or partly against each checkpoint in the subsection. So this is that yes, no part of it. Then on the right hand side of the remarks column, you will have to say record gist of key strengths and OFIs to justify the scores in the subsection. So record what they actually do and what they have achieved also. So if you see the earlier example was kind of an example, to demonstrate these points. When we say gist of key strengths and OFIs, what do we mean? We mean that it should comprise the combination of strengths and OFIs for what? For the enablers and for the outcome. What are enablers? Enablers are what the company does. Let me tell you, for the past 4 years, when we analyze the remarks that we are writing, that each of us are writing, it is that, we are focusing on writing about the enablers only. We are writing about the approaches. There is still a little less focus on writing down the outcome, that is the results related to the subsection. So this year, we request you, I'm sure you will be able to do it. It's just that we need a little reorientation. Think for every subsection, what would be the linked outcome, and just quote that outcome. You will never have any debate, with the calibrator if the outcome is recorded there, properly with trends showing an improvement or deterioration or whatever. Okay. Now, these jargons, right? Enabler. What is an enabler? Enabler is what the unit does. So you have to write comments on, again, we've given you a list of questions. Write whether that approach that they have put in place, is structured, rational, and aligned. whether the approach defines the man, machine, material method, and it is deployed to how many processes. Sometimes they're deploying it to maybe only the maintenance area, maybe a 5S in the maintenance area, but 5S is not so much in the purchasing or in the warehouse. So the deployment level is less. So please mention that. That is why we have said whether approach is implemented and deployed in which relevant processes, which processes are left out. Also, please mention what kind of reviews do they have. Most of the time we are writing that there are 2 management reviews in the organization done every 6 months. We must also write as assessors what are their daily reviews. They don't write all that in the manuals. But when you speak to them, you can capture that strength, that they have a sunrise meeting, they have a sunset meeting, they have a business, a corporate meeting. So these are the kind of meetings you will have to also put in place, and that really gives them the advantage of getting a higher score. You will be able to justify the higher score this way. So write about the enablers, but don't end with the enablers in your subsection. You now have to write about the results, what the unit achieves. So when in that, after the enablers, put in what would be the, first identify the linked result, and then put in the trends, the targets, their comparisons with the best in class, or if of some comparisons, whether results are caused by approaches, whether results cover all the relevant areas. So as a summary, we are saying these 2 yellow boxes are should be part of the remarks, the findings column for each assessor. That is what they have to record beside each subsection. Okay, there are some, we have been speaking about linked results. So what does linked results mean? Given you just some examples of it. For assessing the outcome aspect of a maintenance activity, some of the linked results that the assessor could probe and report in the remarks column are equipment-wise breakdown, overall equipment efficiency, mean time between failures, and others. So, I mean, when you are assessing maintenance, while you could say that the maintenance process includes this, and equipment breakdown has come down from so and so to so and so, overall equipment efficiency was found to be so and so in 2013 January, so much in April, and so much in this thing. So every quarter wise you could give mean time between failures, if that is what they are. So when you write this outcome also, you yourself in your team, you will find that you are scoring them much more objectively, and also making the next evaluator understand why you scored them such. Another example of a linked result is, say, for assessing the outcome aspect of a process control activity. Which are the linked results? Work in process test results, finished good test results, rework percentage trends, reject percent trends, customer complaints, the segmented data, and others. When you assess corrective actions, another examples, please write down whether the company is using tools and techniques for the root cause analysis, like the YY analysis, system problem solving process, Lean Six Sigma, etc. Make a comment whether they are mistake proofing the solution, and give some examples of mistake proofing also, whether SOPs have been revised. Also, talk about the training of concerned employees on the revised processes, some examples of that. Whether on some of the key corrective actions, recurrence was prevented. And then maybe, because it's a mandatory procedure, you could say whether corrective actions, the documented procedure and the records of the corrective actions, whether these are maintained or not. Now, as a summary, we are saying, these are some of the results, customer complaints, breakdown percentage, expired products, number of expired products, the food safety audit performances, companies may be keeping, their inventory control, rework percentage figures, recurring non-compliances, scrap, number of improvements, employee participation percentage in improvement activities. These are some of the indices and the results or the outcome, that we should capture to, put down in our findings. Another thing we have to remember when we are writing down the findings is that for any score which is less than 90%, an opportunity for improvement must be written. The opportunity improvement should preferably identify the gap on the enablers or on the results. The opportunity for improvement, it may mention the impact of the gap on the food safety. Also, it should not preferably be a recommendation or the solution. For 90% or more, excellent practices and results must be recorded to justify world-class scores. So now we come to the importance of what we communicate in the opening and the closing meeting. See, it is why is this communication so important? Most of the applicants are not aware of the model, so we must give them an idea of the model. Most of the applicants would confuse this assessment with an audit which is similar to a certification body audit. So we must, also create that differentiation for them from the very beginning. We must also tell them that our closing meeting happens one day before. We also have to tell them that this is a maturity assessment and what exactly is an enabler and a result. Please explain that also. What we will do is that we will circulate a opening meeting PPT for you to use during the opening meeting, which will align our presentations to the applicants. So the opening meeting is meant to orient the applicant on the award process, to communicate that there are 3 more stages of evaluation after this on-site assessment. Also, to communicate that this is not an audit of documents and records only, but an assessment of the maturity of their FSMS. And when we say maturity, please don't, leave it at that jargon. Maturity of FSMS is a jargon. We have to explain to them that it means that we will be looking at the enablers, give a description of what we mean by enablers, and we will also be looking at the results, the linked results. So also, give an explanation of that. That must, be understood by everybody. In the opening meeting, which I already mentioned, that we will share the PPT, just insert the names, designation, and the applicable criteria. The other portions are the same. So the black portions are what we had put down in the training program, as well as communicated in our earlier refresher training. See, you have to mention the 4 stages of award evaluation and its schedule. Also explain the process of the closing meeting and the consensus meeting. They must not be wondering what we are doing locked up in that room on that last day, for the consensus meeting. Confirm the site visit plan, appeal. I think these are all the same. Another one is that request for all key result trends. We should hand over the list right at the opening meeting, because companies may not be, consolidating that result information the way we would like it. So it is best to hand over a list, which I will be sharing with you in my next slides, on the results, and ask them whether they have that data, whether they can consolidate that data and provide a trend to you against targets and benchmark, whatever benchmarks they have. Request unit to hand over PPT, photos, and videos of good practices if they wish to. This is not mandatory, and you can also explain to them that if shortlisted for the jury presentation, this goes a long way, in communicating the right messages and the right information. Also, tell them about the self-declaration form, that it has to be, signed and sealed. So you can, this is a list of interview questions, the key linked results. We just mentioned that provide them with that list of results that we require, the trends of this. So you can hand over this list to them, maybe add some more, it is not exhaustive. We have just tried to list down, some of the key ones. So please hand over this list to them in the very beginning during the opening meeting, so that, by the end of that day, you receive all this information and you can incorporate it in your feedback report. Environment impact was there last year also, so I'm not going into this. This was new addition last year. When you explain the SSR evaluations, you should mention that these 4 green diamonds are the actual assessment process, and this amounts to more than 100 man-hours per unit. You must also mention the levels of recognitions that were there in 2014, and you must say that every year this could change at the request of the jury as per the recommendation of the jury, but more or less we have stuck to this. So the award trophy for outstanding performance, there is only 1 per sector, per category, per size. These are the things we must mention clearly in the opening meeting as well as in the closing meeting if required to. See, till last year, for the last 2 years, we have had sector, size and category specific recognitions. However, supposing in a particular sector we just have 2 entries, in that case that sector would be clubbed with a sector maybe similar in the manufacturing. If it's a manufacturing organization, it may get clubbed with other manufacturing units. That also should be made clear. It all depends on the number of entries that we have per sector. But another question that you will face is that how many of applicants are there? Will you share the names? So the response to that is that we do not, CII does not allow permit the sharing of the names and numbers, for the simple reason that anyone who does not win a particular recognition, there might be some negative implications. So hence only the ones who get some recognition, the names are shared widely, and you can show them what were the media through which we shared those names and the recognitions. But for those who do not win any recognition, no one gets to know besides this small team and the CII Secretariat, and all of us are bound by confidentiality. This particular norm has been established based on the industry requirements. It has been set by the awards committee, which comprises the industry, our official CII official bearers. In the closing meeting, I think you must also mention how the closing meeting would go. The closing meeting should be 30 minutes approx, because the closing meeting is right on that next day, and OFIs must be mentioned comprehensively. Please do not skip any OFI that you get. Please mention that. Mention the good practices, mention the food safety work culture level, and also mention extent of deployment. Let me tell you, 2 units of the same organization having the same FSMS system, the scores may vary widely, and the differentiation is because of the food safety work culture and the extent of deployment. So please assess these 2 aspects very well. You will know exactly how to justify which unit is better and which one is a little less than the other. Okay, now we come to the site visit for the assessment of the National Award. See, the purpose and outcome of the site visit, I think each of us must understand, is to prepare that report. From the assessor's point of view, that report is the output. So the quality of the report by the assessors is of prime importance, and I think that is why we spend so much time on it. And we all, I will not go through the points which have been written in black. This has always been there. For 3 assessors, this is how the site visit plan must be prepared. Day 1 is arrive. Day 2 is walk around, operations assessment, recording findings in the evening. Walk around, that is day 3. Walk around means at your own operations. This is not the walk around of day 2. so it's an own operation assessment, preparation for closing meeting, the closing meeting itself, and the recording findings in the evening. Day 4 is the consensus meeting. Day 5 is depart. This is for 3 assessors. Now, once again, at the cost of repetition, I would request you to keep that first day walk around restricted to 1.5 hours. Why? Because the objective of that walk around is only to understand the process layout and nothing else. Each of the assessors will have several occasions to come back and, to the shop floor, to the factory floor, to check out, to verify the actual operations. We really, please do not waste time in that walk around. If it's a huge plant, we have asked for vehicles and the company has provided us with the vehicles, and we were able to stick to that 1.5 hours. It's very important. If you now analyze this, you will find that only 1.5 days operations assessment is there. So it is till 5 p.m. Do not go beyond that on day 2 and day 3. So day 1 you arrive. I'm sorry, there is a mistake. I'll make this correction. My sincere apologies. Day 1 is not the walk around. It is actually day 2 is the walk around. The one that I've written in the notes below. Then comes, till 5 p.m. on day 2 and day 3, complete the assessment on the floor, and you then go back to the conference room. Please do not leave the company, because in the conference room for day 2 and day 3, you will get time till about 8:30 to access the data and further information. If you have to write so many results and all, you will need to have them available. So the paperwork, most of the paperwork is done in the evening. So up till about 8:30, please do it in the conference room. This time we are providing, that instruction to everybody. Please do not go back to the hotel, because when you're in the conference room, you'll be able to access all their data and further information. Day 3, complete closing meeting by 5 p.m. And then again, in day 3 evening, again the same thing you do. Then day 4, consensus meeting for refining the feedback. See, on day 3, consensus meeting, there are 3 things you have to do. Refine the feedback, do individual scoring, consensus scoring, and also prepare the executive summary. I will just explain to you why that executive summary is so important, to be written in the team and not just leave it up to the senior assessor. Day 5, you depart. See, I think I've just mentioned about the consensus meeting agenda. I've covered this already. I'll just go to the next slide. Why we need that 12 plus hours, for the consensus meeting, on day 4. Basically for OFIs and strengths against minimum about 49 checkpoints. I'm just taking manufacturing as the basis. You need to complete it before now you first need to complete all this allocated, remarks writing before, and then spend just 10 minutes each, together in the consensus to refine the findings. So if you spend 10 minutes for each of these findings, it will be 490 minutes. Individual consensus scores and total scores to be completed during consensus meeting, 3 minutes each, 147 minutes. Attach the self-declaration form with the feedback report. Then executive summary to be completed on the last day. See, this is basically because we want, there have been, 2 other assessors who possibly did the PRP and the HACCP part of it, for example. Now, if you leave it up to the senior assessor just with some findings, some written down findings, the senior assessor will put down his priorities only. They will not have that, information. He will not have that information on which one should have been, presented in the executive summary. So it is important for the team to select their points, for the executive summary and provide it together and see it together, on the projector. So this is very important. Please do that job. And if you say it is more than 12 hours. And when is it more than 12 hours? When all the homework has been done the previous 2 evenings in the conference room. So scoring is on 100 for each subsection. Just score on 100. The program will take care of, the auto scoring. Then the least count of individual and consensus scoring must be 5. I think this has always been there, just a reiteration. Check whether the total score reflects the overall maturity level, and at least one assessment format must be, must record all the scores comprehensively during the consensus meeting, so that the total score is automatically available at the end of the consensus meeting and sent to CII. So these are the key dates. Just for your information, we have extended the date for the rest for some applications to mid-June. So we are still receiving applications, and the site visits would be starting soon after. We will be making the teams soon after the next refresher course, which is, I think, just next week. Okay, I think criteria for selecting assessors remains the same. We may be able to provide quite a few of you, but not all of you, that opportunity. And there is a rewarding growth opportunity for independent food professionals since last year. So independent food professionals who are not attached to any organizations but who are running their own consultancies get the scope of multi-location units, and there's a compensation also, paid. There's an honorarium paid as per the phase stipulated rates. The assessors will be invited to the plenary session of 3rd December. They'll receive an invitation, complimentary invitation to come to the 10th National Food Safety and Quality Summit in New Delhi, and also the awards gala night. This day one will be complimentary for them. We are also having a science behind food safety. So any of the assessors who would be interested, any of the organizations who are interested in participating in this particular science behind food safety, please let us know. Of course, this is not a complimentary invitation. Speakers and exposition. Then we also have the Surakshit Khadya Abhiyan, which we will be launching very soon, and assessors might receive some invitation, to do some voluntary street food training or demonstration of, hand washes, demonstration of food safety practices, and so on. So we will look forward to your cooperation on this. And in the appendix, we have provided all the other, the code of conduct, the responsibility, which is same as before, but we have presented all this for the records. Role of the assessor, role of the appeal systems, on-site assessment, feedback report to companies, executive summary, broad contents, submission of the feedback report, disclaimer, confidentiality oath, and we expect all of you, we have sent, this is not the format that we have sent, but these are the aspects that all of you must, present to us. If you have not updated your resumes, please do so and send it to us. So with this, we are now opening the question answer session.